He trusted them with everything until one night, he caught them in the dark, alone together, when they thought no one was watching. In a quiet southern town, tucked between long dirt roads and open cornfields, lived Charlie Miller, a soft-spoken, hard-working man who everyone in town respected. He wasn't flashy. He didn't talk much. But he worked his small plot of land every single day, rain or shine, growing vegetables he sold at the local farmer's market. Charlie's wife, Alyssa, was just as beloved. Beautiful, gentle, and always willing to lend a hand. At church, at the school fundraiser, or to an elderly neighbor who needed a warm meal. People said she had a light about her. When she laughed, even strangers smiled. Together, they were the couple folks looked up to, strong, faithful, simple. Then there was Ben Carter, Charlie's best friend since they were kids chasing frogs and riding bikes down dirt hills. Ben was the opposite of Charlie. Loud, funny, full of charm, and the kind of guy who could talk his way out of anything. He ran a small fishing business out by Lake Marston and was like family to Charlie. The kind of friendship built over decades of scraped knees, heartbreaks, and hard times. But sometimes, even family turns. Ben had always thought Alyssa was beautiful. But lately, it was more than that. He found himself thinking about her when he shouldn't. He made excuses to swing by Charlie's house, bringing leftover catfish, asking about a broken boat engine, just to see her smile, just to hear her laugh. And Alyssa noticed. First, she brushed it off. Ben had always been playful, but something about the way he looked at her now. It lingered. The compliments came softer, slower, more personal. She still loved Charlie, she really did, but something about Ben's attention made her feel alive. Ben was spiraling. He couldn't sleep. He'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, replaying every word she'd said to him that day, every smile, every glance. His chest would tighten, his hands would sweat, and no matter how wrong he knew it was, his feelings kept growing. One warm night, Ben parked his truck outside Charlie's house. He wasn't even sure why he was there, just pulled by something he couldn't explain. He stared up at the soft glow of the bedroom window, wondering if she was awake. Then the front door creaked open. There she was, Alyssa, surprised to see him, but not upset. "I forgot my bracelet down by the creek trail," she said quietly. "Want to walk with me?" Ben nodded, heart pounding. He didn't know what was about to happen, but he followed her into the night anyway. They walked in silence down the gravel path toward the creek. The moon hung low, casting soft silver shadows over the rippling water. The night was still, too still. Ben stopped walking. He turned to Alyssa, his voice barely above a whisper, shaking as he spoke. "I can't hold this in anymore. I think about you all the time. I know it's wrong. I know Charlie trusts us, but I can't stop." Alyssa's heart stuttered. She had felt something. She wasn't blind. But hearing it said out loud, it shook her. "You shouldn't feel this way," she murmured, eyes on the water. "Charlie loves us both." He'd never see this coming. Ben stepped closer. His eyes didn't move from hers. "I know. That's what makes it so hard. Every time I see you, I want more. Just more of you." Alyssa's breath caught in her throat. She knew this was dangerous, selfish even, but something inside her gave in. She didn't walk away. She didn't stop him. That night, under a veil of moonlight and guilt, they kissed for the first time. It was soft, then urgent, wrong, but electric. And it didn't stop there. From that night on, they became addicts of secrecy. Every glance they stole in public. Every whisper exchanged behind closed doors. Every time they met, hidden away behind barns, in woods, or the shadows of the old boat shed, they made love like the world didn't exist. The danger made it more thrilling. The lies made it feel more real. And Ben couldn't get enough. Even with his wife Amber back home, nursing their 6-month-old daughter and chasing after their toddler son, his heart and body craved Alyssa. He felt ashamed. He knew what he was risking, but nothing compared to the fire he felt when he was near her. Alyssa wasn't blind to the damage either. She still loved Charlie deeply. She adored their children, a bright-eyed 8-year-old boy and a sweet 6-year-old girl. But Ben's words, his touch, his presence, they unlocked something reckless in her, something she thought she had buried. She was caught between comfort and chaos, between the man who gave her stability and the man who made her feel alive. They became experts in deception. Alyssa started lying, saying she was out shopping, visiting a friend, or taking a long walk. Ben would cut fishing trips short, claiming bad weather or engine trouble. Every moment they could steal away together, they did. And each time they said goodbye, the fear of being discovered hung over them like a dark cloud. But the thrill kept pulling them back. Small towns have sharp eyes. It wasn't long before folks in Maple Hollow started whispering. They noticed the sideways glances between Ben and Alyssa, the long conversations on front porches, the way they always seemed to bump into each other. Even when they shouldn't, people talked. But Charlie, he brushed it off. He trusted them both with everything he had. His wife, his best friend. No part of him wanted to believe what others were starting to see so clearly. Then one evening, it nearly all came crashing down. Ben and Alyssa met in the woods behind the old mill road. Same spot as always. Same routine. Only this time, as they embraced, hearts pounding, lips locked in reckless passion, they heard it. A sound. A rustle in the brush. They froze. And then they saw him, Noah Grant, a quiet, nosy neighbor from 2 farms down. He stood there wide-eyed, and then, like a flash, he snatched up Alyssa's scattered clothes and bolted. "Noah, wait!" Alyssa screamed, clutching Ben's shirt to her chest. Panic overtook them. "Charlie can't know," Alyssa sobbed. "We'll fix this," Ben said, breathless, already racing through the woods. He ran like hell until he found a basket of laundry drying near an abandoned trailer. He snatched a blanket, tore back through the trees, and wrapped her up before sneaking her home the back way, avoiding roads, lights, and everything in between. The next morning, desperation set in. Ben and Alyssa tracked Noah down behind the church barn. They begged. They offered him money, food, even favors. He said nothing at first, just stared at them, holding Alyssa's clothing like a trophy. Then he smirked. "Every week," Noah said coldly. "Cash, groceries, whatever I ask. Or everyone in town finds out." They had no choice. Week after week, they paid him off. Groceries, envelopes of money, even things they stole from their own homes. It was humiliating, but fear kept them compliant. Shame kept them quiet. But the guilt? That was something else entirely. Amber, Ben's wife, would sit with Alyssa and talk about motherhood. How exhausted she felt. How she missed feeling seen. Alyssa would nod and comfort her, even as her insides twisted with guilt. How could she sit there, pretending to care, while sneaking off with her husband? Ben felt it too. Every time he kissed Alyssa, he saw Amber's face in his mind. But he still went, still touched, still burned. They were trapped in a mess of their own making, and every week, the price to keep it quiet went up. Then one afternoon, it all nearly unraveled again. Ben and Alyssa met in the woods, thinking they were alone. But Noah stepped out from behind a tree, grinning, waving the same old clothes he used to control them. "Don't forget who owns your secret," he said with a sneer. As he walked away, Alyssa fell apart. "This has to end," she sobbed. "We can't keep living like this." Ben held her close, jaw clenched. "I know," he whispered, "but I can't let you go." They sat in silence for a long time before the plan formed. A desperate, dangerous, irreversible plan. Noah had to go. "Noah has to go," Ben said coldly, barely above a whisper. "It's the only way to shut this down. Forever." Alyssa didn't argue. Her heart was pounding so loud, she could barely hear herself think. She knew this was insane. But the fear, the blackmail, the shame, it was suffocating them both. She couldn't see any other way. They picked the perfect night. No moon, no wind, just shadows and silence in the deep woods behind Marston Creek. Ben messaged Noah earlier that day, telling him the payment would be delivered in person, just like always. But this time, it wouldn't be groceries. What they didn't know was that Noah wasn't coming alone. He had grown suspicious. He knew what guilt looked like. So he told his buddy Nathan, a quiet war vet who owed him a favor. "Just follow me," Noah told him. "Stay hidden. If something doesn't feel right, step in." That night, Ben and Alyssa waited in the dark, barely breathing. Noah arrived, flashlight in hand, eyes scanning the trees. "Where's my stuff?" he asked, smirking like always. "Right here," Ben muttered, stepping in close. Before Noah could blink, Ben lunged. The fight was quick, ugly, and silent. A struggle of grunts and gasps. Then, a sharp motion, a stab. Noah collapsed to the ground, blood pooling beneath him, knife still buried deep in his chest. Alyssa stared in horror. This wasn't a fantasy anymore. It was real. It was bloody. It was final. Then, a voice behind them, a gasp. "What the hell did you do?" Nathan stepped out from the shadows, eyes wide as he saw Noah's body sprawled on the forest floor. Ben's face went white. He took off after Nathan, limping hard on a twisted ankle from the earlier struggle. But Nathan was faster, already disappearing into the woods. Ben stumbled, fell hard, and cried out in pain. Alyssa rushed to his side, grabbing his arm. "Are you okay?" she asked, her voice shaking. "My leg's bad." But worse, he saw us. He saw everything. They sat there in the dark, trying to catch their breath. What was supposed to be a clean ending had become a disaster. Nathan could be halfway back to town by now. Or worse, already telling Charlie. Already telling the police. Already telling everyone. What they didn't know. Nathan didn't make it far. In his panic, he sprinted straight into a low-hanging oak and went down hard. Headfirst. Unconscious. Alone. Deep in the woods. Ben and Alyssa searched for hours. Alyssa tore herbs from the underbrush, making a makeshift compress for Ben's leg. But they couldn't find him. The woods were too quiet. Too dark. Eventually, they had no choice but to limp back home, carrying their guilt and the terrifying unknown of what came next. The next morning, Ben and Alyssa woke up with a sick feeling in their stomachs. Nathan had seen everything. If he made it out of those woods and back to town, it was over. They spent the entire day searching. His house, through fields, back roads, even behind the old gas station where teens hung out. But Nathan was nowhere to be found. The forest felt endless, like it had swallowed him whole. Every broken branch felt like a clue. Every silence a threat. They went to their homes that night covered in dirt, panicked, exhausted, and still clueless. The next 2 days were worse. No sign of Nathan. No word from the police. No news about Noah's body. But in town, people were whispering. Noah had suddenly vanished. Just gone. And folks were starting to notice. His truck still parked in the same spot. His dog barking at the back door. Something wasn't right. Ben and Alyssa tried to keep it together. Fake smiles at the market, short conversations at church. But behind their eyes was a storm. Every rustle outside the window made them freeze. Every unexpected knock made their stomachs drop. They lived minute to minute, waiting for their world to fall apart. But when 2 days passed with no gossip, they started to breathe again. Just a little. "Maybe Nathan didn't make it back," Alyssa whispered one night. "Maybe he's gone for good." And with that tiny sliver of false hope, the affair crept back in. They met again, like nothing had changed. But Charlie noticed. Alyssa had become distant, distracted. Ben barely spoke to him anymore. Avoiding eye contact, making excuses. It didn't feel like friendship anymore. Felt like avoidance. On the 4th day after Noah's disappearance, Charlie was fixing up a broken fence on the edge of his property when he saw a figure walking quickly toward him. It was George, a hunter who roamed the backwoods for deer and wild turkey. "Charlie," George said, breathless, "you need to come with me. Now." Charlie dropped everything and followed him. They arrived at the small cabin behind the town's herbalist shop. There, lying weakly on a makeshift cot, was Nathan. His head was bandaged. His face was pale. But his eyes opened when he heard Charlie's voice. And the moment Charlie stepped inside, Nathan whispered, Charlie, I saw them. I saw everything. He told him everything. About the woods. About Noah. About the knife. About Ben. About Alyssa. And in that instant, Charlie's entire world shattered like glass. Charlie didn't stop running. He left the cabin with Nathan's words echoing in his head and sprinted straight into the woods, heart pounding with rage, disbelief, and heartbreak. His mind was a blur of memories, trust, betrayal, lies, and just ahead, deep in the clearing by the creek, he saw them, Ben and Alyssa, tangled in each other once again, as if the world hadn't already cracked beneath them. When they spotted him, they froze. Guilt stretched across both their faces like fog. How could you? Charlie shouted, voice cracking. I trusted you, Alyssa. I trusted you, Ben. You were my brother. Alyssa's hands trembled. Her face crumpled with tears. Charlie, I'm so sorry, she whispered. Ben stepped forward, trying to speak, but Charlie cut him off. Don't come near me. You betrayed me. Both of you. Back in town, Nathan had told everything. By nightfall, nearly the whole town knew. They gathered in trucks and on foot, flashlights bobbing in the dark, heading toward the woods. Angry voices filled the air. By the time they reached the clearing, Charlie's confrontation had reached its boiling point. But now the entire town was there to witness it. You disgust us, one man shouted. We raised you better than this, yelled another. Voices overlapped in a blur of fury and shame. Some people took Charlie's side. Others stared in disbelief at Ben and Alyssa, two people they once admired. Alyssa dropped to her knees in the mud, tears running down her cheeks. Charlie, please, she sobbed. Please forgive me. I made a terrible mistake, but I still love you. Ben stood nearby, shoulders slumped, face hollow. I never meant for it to go this far, he said, voice cracking. I didn't plan it. I just couldn't stop. Charlie stood there, motionless. Everything he knew, his marriage, his friendship, his world, was gone. He looked at Alyssa, the woman he built a life with. He looked at Ben, the man who had stood beside him since grade school, and he saw nothing but strangers. The police lights flashed through the trees like an ending no one saw coming. Ben Carter and Alyssa Miller were handcuffed and led out of the woods, their heads bowed, faces drained of everything but regret. As they passed the crowd, Alyssa turned to Charlie one last time. Please, take care of our kids, she choked through tears. Tell them I love them. Charlie gave a slow, hollow nod. His heart felt like it was breaking in real time. But he knew he had to stay strong. Not for her, not for Ben, for the two small children sleeping at home, who would wake up tomorrow without their mother. The town watched in silence as the two were driven away, hands behind their backs, lives shattered. The weight of everything they had done, the lies, the affair, the murder, had finally come crashing down. Charlie stood by himself under the fading sun, the wind cool against his skin. The ache inside him was raw. He had lost his wife. He had lost his best friend. And no amount of justice could fix that. But there was one thing left, his children, and the quiet, painful work of starting over. He looked up at the horizon as dusk settled over Maple Hollow. I'll keep going, he thought. For them. The road ahead would be long. There'd be nights of silence. Days where the grief came out of nowhere. But somewhere beyond the pain, Charlie believed there had to be healing. And in time, maybe even peace. Some wounds cut deeper than betrayal. And some truths, once uncovered, change everything forever. If you were Charlie, would you have forgiven them? Tell us in the comments below. And if this story moved you, like the video and subscribe for more powerful tales like this. Stories that dig deep, challenge the heart, and reveal the choices we all hope we never have to make. But don't stop here, watch the next story right after this one. It's another unforgettable journey through love, betrayal, and the decisions that shape who we become.